you see the rise of a bunch of new creators, and I think there is a brand new wave of. There always is. There's always and there's plenty of space for people to be successful, and there's plenty of space for new voices. So it's just like, if you're inspired, just do.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Globe Focus podcast. I am your host, Andrew James, and this week I got to sit down with the legendary Jordan Taylor Wright, otherwise known as Taylor Cut Films. Jordan was a huge inspiration for me when I was getting started in the travel filmmaking industry. He inspired tons of people with his videos on YouTube and Instagram, and he's really just an icon of the space. Be sure to give this podcast 5 stars wherever you're listening, and without further ado, let's jump into this week's discussion. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Globe Focus. Today I'm very, very excited because I have the privilege to interview somebody that I have known about for a long time and who actually inspired me a lot to do what I do in my life in filmmaking. He's had a big impact on the travel content creator world, social media in general. Mr. Taylor Cut Films or Jordan Taylor. Which do you prefer?
Either or. I mean, my mom calls me Jordan, my dad calls me Taylor, so.
Really?
Yeah, whatever you're
Even
feeling.
amongst your family, it's like.
Yeah, well, my middle name's Taylor, so I think my dad wanted me to be named Taylor. My mom wanted me to be named Jordan, so
Really?
they went with Jordan Taylor.
And then they both were like, I'm just going to do what I think is best.
Yeah, so
You know
I like it. It's like 2 first names.
You know what's interesting is you're the first guest, like I've been using ChatGPT to come up with questions. You're the first guest where I was just like, do you know who Taylor Cut Films is? And it was like, yes. I was like,
wow.
Write me podcast questions for him.
Nice.
They weren't great questions, but it was kind of nice. Like,
That's cool.
I don't have to input who you are. It just knows. How do you feel about like the computer is like already aware of who you are?
It's cool. I mean, I like the AI space. I like any advancement in technology. And it's weird because I got hired to be creative director for a company called Work Ninja, and they're like an AI software company. It's an app. I mean, I don't know if you follow like David Dobrik or iShowSpeed, they just did like a 10 Tesla giveaway.
Oh, wow.
And it was like in partnership with that company that I'm creative director for. But anyway, long story short, it's cool because it's like an app that can like scan questions and it'll like generate an answer for you and also write essays for you, which is like so weird to think about. Like if I had that when I was in school.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I probably would have used it, but I just don't know how much smarter it would have made me. But it's just cool to see how advanced technology is becoming. But yeah, I mean, that they know who I am, I guess that's exciting. I don't know.
Well, I was going to ask you, I think you have an interesting perspective on the technology because I came into the filmmaking world maybe around 2018, 2019 is really when I started taking it seriously. But I even remember being like a kid and watching you and Sam using like the Ronin M days, you know, and even before that, like the Glide Cam.
Yeah.
And gimbals is a good example of how technology advanced so quickly because it went from like this big DJI gimbal that not a lot of many people had. Like when you guys went out with that, when you had the Ronin, the original Ronin, I feel like you would probably get a lot of weird looks, and now gimbals are so normal.
Yeah.
I mean, what has that been like for you to see like drones get way better, cameras get way better, gimbals get way better?
Yeah. I mean, I have like a love-hate relationship. I mean, obviously I enjoy the technology getting better, but then it's also just like maybe just as I'm getting older, I see like the commerce side of it, how it's like, I think the Air 2S was great. And now I just feel like drones are coming out where it's almost just like, not a knock to DJI. This is just companies in general, but it's almost like, here's the Mavic and the Mavic Plus and the Mavic Pro and the Mavic Classic, then the Mavic, like, I see how they're trying to just get you to spend money in a sort of sense. So like, I love the advancement. I just hope it's like for advancement's sake, not to like, you know, consumerism for people to spend money and stuff. But I mean, I'm excited to see what the future holds. Like, I don't know, the cameras are so small now. You could shoot 8K on like an A1, and the Komodos are more accessible now. So more people are like owning Reds. And I think it's just bridging the gap between, you know, what's considered professional and what's considered more like hobby, if you will. But, yeah, I just think it's
prosumer basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's just so many people now, whether it's like TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be, where it's just like the gap of the quality it's just so, the entry point is so it's so easy now to, if you have a passion for something, you can go and make a video that is the quality of like, the filmmakers that inspire you, whoever that may be. So, I mean, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Technology advancement is always good for leveling the playing field. And I think hopefully AI will do that for people as well. It's scary for me. I think this is my first time. Like I'm more in the industry than I was when I was, younger and gimbals were changing. So this is kind of my first seeing how technology is changing things. So it's a little bit scary, but I think it's just going to readjust. The chips will fall where they may. But this show is actually I want to talk to you about where you grew up, because I think as an artist, that's so important. And it's supposed to be about travel, but the thing Americans, I feel like, don't understand is that to Italians or to French people or to Asians, like, where, I'm from Virginia, so it doesn't sound that exciting, but to them, it's a foreign concept. So, like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey. A lot of like New York, New Jersey was kind of where I spent the majority of my childhood, but both my parents are South African. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm first generation American, and the reason why I say that is just because I feel like South Africa played such like a large part in my childhood. It's like all the music that my mom played, like she speaks Afrikaans. She would like sing me lullabies and like Swahili, and like, I don't know, even you can't see much of my house in this shot.
No, but
there's like,
even a little bit of the design. Yeah, I can tell.
There's like elephants and like giraffes around, and there's like a Nelson Mandela painting when you walk in through the stairs. Like to the left is like the Jungle Book. It's just like, I don't know. I find that my roots are, I feel like I have like South African roots, which is cool. I mean,
well, yeah, first generation immigrant, you must feel a connection to that.
Yeah, and also it's like travel is amazing, obviously, because it's like, the metaphor is like if life is a book, it's like if you don't travel, you only read one page. But it's like I feel like I was fortunate to have parents that were not from, where I lived, because it like once I did go to school, like I had this different kind of viewpoint on
mindset,
what life was, and what else existed out there. So I already had that like curiosity. So once I was able to explore a bit more, it's just like I got the bug, and I just wanted to see how much there was. It's like, wow, I know what. Africa is so cool. I want to see more of America. I want to see more of like Europe, and just like try to see as much as possible, and like meet as many people and see as much as possible.
Yeah. What was it like? What was the first trip did you do that really got you hooked on the idea of traveling?
I mean, I went to Israel when I was 13.
Okay.
Actually, I went back to South Africa when I was 13, and that like was amazing because I got to meet my mom's like extended family who I hadn't met before, and it was just cool to see like, just like baboons walking around and all this. It's just like I've always had like an infatuation with like animals. So just like, being in Africa, obviously you see like a whole different, you're not seeing like deer and squirrels, you're seeing like, all different type of animals. And but yeah, I'd say like going back there was really cool. And then yeah, I mean, like Japan and Israel were probably like two that got me really excited to see more of like the Middle East, and then more of like Asia, because it's just like
it's like a different world.
Yeah, even technology wise, it just felt like, I mean, I'm huge into like science fiction and stuff too, so even just like being in Tokyo, being in Asia, like where technology advancements like kind of are in the forefront of everything, it's I just wanted to see a lot more from there as well.
Yeah, totally. Makes sense to me. And I feel like it's interesting that I never knew that about your parents, South Africa, but it makes sense that I think, thinking back through some of your videos and the way it does, a lot of it has kind of a Jungle Book, almost like kind of African inspiration. I wouldn't have noticed that without the context, but it's really interesting to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And with my sound mixing too, a lot of the time I'll put a bunch of either like Disney type of stuff under there. Like I'll put like Peter Pan, like you can fly under like the intros, or I'll put like Mufasa speaking, or like just random little things like that.
What do you think about what Disney's become? Because I grew up with a lot of Disney nostalgia. I'm a big fan of Disney. I love that. And when you use those sound bites in your films, I love it because it instantly like hits that note, that emotional note for me.
Yeah.
But I was I saw a TikTok the other day about it, just comparing those like the energy of old Disney was so much more optimistic and artistic, and now it just seems like they're all kind of these same 3D models, very like DreamWorks style. Is that ever kind of like,
I think I think it's two things. I think one, it's like you always have like a more sense of nostalgia when you're a kid. You always like, I feel like everyone always thinks that like when I was a kid, like things were better or whatever. I just think we probably just had a lens that wasn't tainted
yeah,
or whatever. But then also,
that's true.
I don't know. I feel like even older Disney, like the more you dive into it too, I think they were taking harder subjects and they were trying to like paint it with a sense of like magic for so it could appeal to like adults and kids, but there is some like serious dark
serious
undertones.
Pinocchio scares the shit out of me to this day.
Yeah, a lot of those movies, like either they're addressing like like plagues or famine or World War II or whatever. It's like it's their way of kind of like addressing it. But I mean, there's in terms of originality with new Disney stuff. Yeah, I think there's some good news. I mean, I really liked Inside Out, which was a Pixar film that
was clever. Pixar's usually better. Disney Pixar.
Yeah, they're still making decent stuff, but it's just like everything's so saturated now. You just got to find the good stuff, you know. And everyone's trying to make money, so they'll put out known IP and they'll put out certain stuff. But I don't know. I just like that there's so many streaming places now because there is like really good content that does exist if you have the time to like go and find
sift through it.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about how your relationship with spirituality has changed through the years, because I think as a viewer, as an audience member, someone who's been a follower and a fan, that's something that has become more prominent in your work, especially if you go back to like the India days or the Venice days. But you always had like an ethereal sense to your videos. There was always a sense of ethereal, but over time it's definitely taken more of a spiritual, and I think you've included more messages. So what is, I know it's a big question, right?
Yeah.
But if you could speak a little bit about what your spiritual journey has been like and how that's kind of affected your art.
Yeah, for sure. I think like a part of it too is like when my first real experience with like quote unquote success, luckily, was like not being in front. Like I toured with Usher for 10 years and I got to work with like Bieber and stuff like that. And I think of like kind of seeing like fame and fortune and like what, you know, we consider success.
Yes,
like,
I'll say it for you. Success. Yeah.
Like, but it was nice like being behind to see, and also just seeing like how it didn't necessarily make them any more happy. Like they still had their problems behind closed doors. And it's just like, so I think I kind of did like this internal thing in my head where it was just like, well,
you had to recalibrate.
Yeah. If it's like, if fame and fortune and all of these things that like you think are supposed to make you happy don't necessarily make you happy, then like what does? And then I think when I started to do my initial type of travel stuff, and when I like ended up moving to LA, and like I moved into a building that, you know, had all the Viners in at the time, and I was like making content with them, and then my like following started to go up. I think when I was doing all of that, at first it's just like I got caught up in all of like the glitz and glamour and having fun and like all of that. But then once like, you know, once you hit a certain amount of like, and I'm not saying I'm nearly as successful as like a lot of people, but it's like once your followers start to go up and once you start to like make decent money or whatever, it's almost like, well, wait, why am I doing this? Like,
what's the purpose? Yeah. Do I actually need more money? Do I actually need more?
And numbers never end. So it's just like, you know, if you're just keep on wanting to get more money, more followers, whatever, it's like you'll ultimately never feel fulfilled. So I think I just tried to tune into like, you know, and also I think the pandemic helped a lot too, in terms of like, I feel like all humans kind of got sent to their room a little bit, and we did some like
do some soul searching,
did some self-reflection, and like what makes you happy when like you don't have all the external stimuli. So it's like even now it's like I've been sober for like 2 years. I like my routine is just like wake up, I get some sun, I cold plunge, I have a sauna, like I like exercising, you know, like journaling. I still love traveling. I still love content. I still love like a lot of stuff, but I just feel like I'm a lot more grounded. And I always had like, my issue was never having my like head in the clouds. It was like keeping my feet on the ground. Yeah. So it was just like tuning into like, how do I feel more grounded? And for me, that's just like being present and having gratitude. And yeah, I just like, I you know, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind and like, especially being in LA and stuff. So I just think, I don't know, the more I can send that kind of message out there of just like, you know, being at peace with like where you're at, and that like, you know, everything kind of stems from this place of like, gratitude, then hopefully, I don't know, it can help other people, or I just feel like it gives a more honest like perspective to like what type of stories I'm telling and how I see things anyway. But I still like, I don't know, the sense of like wonder and magic, like that's never like gone
Left.
away for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
just kind of try to sprinkle that into everything that I do. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it's important for artists. So I grew up very religiously. Like my family's very religious. They'll listen to this and I'll say things that they won't like. And like, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
But I'm actually, although I'm not religious anymore, I'm glad I was raised that way because I think it affected the way that I see art and I see movies, because I do see things as more objective truth. I like to believe, I like to hope. I was raised to hope for things, even if they're not something that I can physically see. And so I'm not spiritual right now, but I'm very inclined to believe in deeper ideas, more existential thoughts. And I think that's important for anybody who's trying to convey any kind of message, is to be able to think about what actually matters,
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that. I guess probably especially, I guess that's the stereotype. Maybe it's not true, but the stereotype of LA is that people are not thinking about that as much. But maybe they are, because what you said was really interesting. You were around Bieber, you're around Usher, you're around ultra successful people that everyone wants to be like, and you're seeing firsthand, oh, it's not as great as it might seem.
I mean, there's pockets here that have that like sense of spirituality, like in Venice, there's that like notorious culture of like people that are like into Wim Hof and breathing
Right.
and like ayahuasca and mushrooms and all of that. I just think there's like, I don't know. I feel like if you're too latched onto anything, I think for me, it's just like the art of letting go, like letting go of the idea of who you think you are and all that. Sorry. Is it on? Or was
It is on. I'm just turning it up a bit to make sure it's... Yeah, it's still getting you, I think. Okay.
But yeah, it's interesting too, because it's like my mom's Jewish, my dad's Catholic, and they divorced when I was 10. So he tried to like take me to church and she tried to like take me to temple. And like I was bar mitzvahed, but then I also celebrated Christmas. So it's like, I feel like naturally I wanted to kind of just like push away from both of them. And I don't know, there's like again, when people ask me like what my like belief system is, it's like I read a quote and I feel like it kind of registers with me, is like, I don't think one specific religion is truth, but I think there's truth in every religion. So like I love learning as much as I possibly can. Like I try to, whether it's like Zen or Buddhism or like Judaism, Christianity, like it doesn't matter. Like I love learning about all of them, and I think you can find truth in all of them. But for me, I think like the whole of life is the art of like letting go. And I think there's like a lot that we don't know, and I don't pretend to know everything. It's just I find peace in the like the mystery of everything. So I think the more like comfort you can find in the like the uncomfortable, the easier life is.
Totally. And I think but I just respect anybody who is seeking the answer to these questions, because I know that there's such hard questions, and it's frustrating because you want to know the answer. And I think a lot of people, myself included, sometimes feel like I deserve to know the answer to the universe. But really, no. I mean, I'm just here. You're just here. Like no one told me at the beginning that I was going to understand what's happening to me, or that it's going to be fair.
Maybe we forgot.
Who knows? I mean, I'm open
maybe
to any
as we're
idea.
being born, they're just like, don't forget this. And then all of a sudden they're like, you're a boy named Andrew. You're like, I forgot everything.
And now I'm here. So but I respect anybody who's trying, because I think it's when you're not even trying, and I don't know the answer either. No one knows the answer. But if you're letting life pass by and you're just going with whatever culture is telling you is important and letting that be your metric, that's probably not a great place to be.
Or just find what makes you happy,
Just
try, and happiness I find is in the little things. The more you try to find happiness in like the big gestures, the more you're just going to keep seeking those like larger existential things to like make you feel better. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy that like storytelling is something that exists and is so prevalent, because it's like we're all storytellers. So,
well, I subscribe to the idea. Like I'm pretty big. Honestly, I'm going through like an existential crisis, because I'm young. I'm recently moved out. I'm trying to work through my belief system. My whole family's still Christian. I'm smoking a lot of weed. I'm thinking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so it's encouraging for me to see people like you who are more open about their beliefs, and because sometimes people are so taboo about that stuff, like they're so taboo about the importantest questions that there are. They're so guarded with it. And I can understand, because it's a hot topic, but the more that people discuss, you know, I have a lot of Muslim friends, and I grew up very, like, my dad's in the military, very, like, not anti-Muslim, but like not necessarily pro-Muslim, you know,
just stereotypes.
Stereotypes.
Like,
and then you go and you learn about their
certain
religion,
people,
and you see the people and you meet the people and you understand like where they're coming from. All religions are people trying to figure out what life is.
Yeah.
And people
at
exploit
the heart
that.
of it is usually like love and peace is like
usually, and then it's the people fuck it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and then they just put rules on top of it just to make sure that like you don't do dumb stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's why travel's great, because you get to put a face. I mean, like empathy, you know, it's hard to like have complete compassion for like a nameless, figureless type of person. So like if you get to go and
meet them.
Yeah, like if you live in the deep South, maybe you don't meet that many people that look different than you, that have different ideologies than you, and like you realize once you meet them that at the heart of it they breathe the same air, and that they like have similar life experiences, and they just want, you know, they want to wake up in the morning happy and they want to go to sleep happy, and it's like everything in between is like kind of similar human experiences, but you can learn a lot from one another. So
for sure, I remember the first like more Muslim country I went to was Morocco, and I just so distinctly remember meeting this woman who was in like hijab and everything like that, and I was like, that's my mom. That's the Muslim version of my mom in this other country, and so it gave me a sense of this is just where they came from, and if I had been born here, this is what I would have believed. But yeah, that's really interesting. So, and then talking more about your career, I mean, like, what has it been like for you just developing? I think you've had a lot of different facets, like. You're still in the travel space, but you're also very much in the LA space, more production space. You said you're the creative director. What has it been like, all these different kind of small pivots in your career? What has that been like for you? Where are you at now?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always said like yes to a lot of stuff. You know, I meet a lot of different people, and I like storytelling in all of its forms. But yeah, I still do travel stuff. I don't post as much on social media as much as I used to, just because it's like, I feel like I went really hard at it for a few years, and it brought me some reward and some feeling of like fulfillment. But now it's like I'd rather just like share when I really have something that I'm excited to share about. But like I shot a feature a couple years ago that I'm in post-production on. I did a short film that did really well in some like festivals I was like EP on. I'm working on a documentary right now that I'm EP on for like Monsters Headphones, which is really cool.
What's EP?
Executive producing.
Okay, so you're taking more of like a creative overhead approach. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like helping raise capital, and then also like you get back end if it sells or if it goes somewhere, but also it's like I help a lot with like the post-production. We do a lot of like visual effects. I have like a team, and myself and the team, we do a lot of like animation stuff. We work with a lot of like brands. We help with like creative marketing strategies. So I'm like creative director for 2 companies. One is called Hubi. They're like a link in bio platform.
Yep. I know about Hubi. I think I use Hubi for this podcast.
Yeah,
I should at least.
Yeah, they do a lot of like.
It's like the invite. You have to be like approved, kind of, and then yeah,
strategic partners. They have like Chris Hemsworth, and like I think Jeff Bezos are now like strategic partners, which is really cool. And so yeah, I'm helping them with that and their content, and then Work Ninja, like I was saying, and then just I don't know, different. I still do like commercials, music videos. It's just whatever kind of opportunities come my way, and if I think I can like add to it, I'll say yes.
How much for you? I think the advantage, like I think Los Angeles isn't what it used to be, but the advantage of setting up camp here and just starting to meet people, and then those relationships compounding over time is pretty valuable, because I think I've realized over time like how much all the jobs I ever get as a freelancer, like all my money comes as a freelance filmmaker. It's all through connections, right? It's all through people that I just happen to meet, and it's always the randomest people too. It's never what I expected. And so I think being in a place like LA, because everyone that you meet all the time is trying to do something somewhere. Like most people have some idea. Over time, I mean, how much has that really, like just being in this space, meeting people, must be incredibly beneficial for your career. Yeah, it
definitely helps, because you're meeting people that are like in the industry, if you will, or that like everyone's in the creative space. So like 9 out of 10 times someone that you meet is working in a similar capacity, or is like open to trying to figure out a way how to like network or do something together. But I mean, it's like anywhere in the world, though. It's like you do have to like follow up too, because it's like LA notoriously is very like flaky. So they'll say like, "Oh, we'll do something," and it's like you may never hear from them again. So it's like, but it's
That makes sense.
yeah, following up with people or just like thinking of ideas of ways you can work together. Or I don't know, I always like if someone's like, oh, I'd love to do something and like this is like either my company or my brand or this is the idea or whatever. It's like I always make a note. It's like you check my phone, I don't have like all my messages are answered, all my emails are answered. It's like right away, I just make sure it's like, okay, I'll like make sure that I'll send you a message in the morning. I'll send you yeah, I'll just like whatever my thought is, I get it out like right away and just kind of like stay on top of it. Cause it's like, yeah, it's easy just to let things get like,
but that goes such a long way as
yeah.
far as working with people too. I mean, if that's the person you are to work with, that's who I want to work with. I want to work with the people who are going to respect my, like, communication's everything. How about for, this is a random question, but you play basketball a lot, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You inspired me recently. Like I live in Seattle right now. So I had nothing going on and I just was like, I'm going to go buy a basketball. I literally just saw your story. I was like, I suck at basketball. I'm not even good at it, but I just played it when I was a kid and I got out there, I started moving. And then actually yesterday in LA, I was with my brother and I was with some of his friends.
Nice.
And I was like, we should go get a basketball. And I think so many people don't have community these days. Like really, I think I want to like, so many people don't go do things with people physically anymore. It's all, I think about it like, this is the more paranoid side of me, but life is 3D, right? We're in the third dimension, but I live like so many of my hours on the 2D now. Like it's text, it's communicating, and with ChatGPT and AI, I'm just hoping more people are going, we don't need to go back to 2-dimensional. Like 3-dimensional has so much more to offer. What if for you, is it, I feel like you probably get a lot out of just playing like basketball, even creatively. Does that help you think of ideas?
Yeah, that's always been like, I mean, I played basketball in high school and college, and then like I took a break when I was traveling because it's like I just wasn't able to as much. But when I did move to LA, I find like I'll do my stuff during the day, and then at night I'll go and like play basketball, which is really fun. Either I'll like go to like an LA Fitness or 24-hour fitness, and now I go to this spot called Cross Court, which is really cool. You sign up and other people come and play with you, and yeah, it is a community. You go and play with like a lot of people that you see.
With people in a physical space. No one's on their phone because you're trying to make the ball. Like that's special.
Like I love exercise in general. Like I love sweating. I love like cardio. I love breathing. I love getting out of your own head. And it's
good
like,
for the creative.
Yeah, for sure. And then you just come back reset, and it's just like, I try to take care of my body a lot. And just like, for me, I mean, I went to the gym earlier and I like doing that as well. But for me, it's like, doing some sort of game or doing something while I'm exercising is the most fun. And, it's like I'm focusing on like the dribbling and the running and the shooting, and it's just like not so much that I'm exercising.
There's like a creative element to it too. I think like you're a fashionable, like this style. I'm convinced like right now my life view is actually based in style. And I think it's like we're like these flighting, like we're just like electricity. And how much, like, this is your life. How much style can you have? And so for me, I like working out too. I like being in a gym. It is good for my mental health. And if that's what I can do, then great. But I like something, like I started out filming skateboarding because there's a sense of personal individual, like it's an art form. There's individuality in skateboarding. And I think a lot of people I meet are like that, where you like basketball, I think, because there's like some style. There's a sense of individuality about how you play. Whereas lifting a dumbbell, yeah, you could do it. But I like the sense of play. I think. And people don't get that much anymore.
No.
Just a genuine sense of play.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I started filming skateboarding too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
That's a classic story, I think. Snowboarding, skateboarding, something like that.
Mine was on like a VHS cassette though. My dad had like a VHS like cassette recorder.
Yeah.
And I would just like film me and my friends on like kicker ramps. And
I had a GoPro Hero 2 that my brother bought me. So it's kind of like, that was cool. I mean, I remember seeing the GoPro. Like, it's been cool to see even just like, I remember seeing my first GoPro video. Remember how they always play GoPro videos in like Walmart or something, and they'd have the video? I just remember standing in front of that and being like, that was the first time I'd ever seen a video that I wanted to replicate. I was like, what is this? I'd never even been into photography, but the GoPro videos, that like, I think a lot of people got into it just because of that.
Yeah, it made it seem accessible. And also like just the fisheye perspective was just like you felt like you were a part of it.
And the colors and everything too. Like I'd never seen such vibrant colors, the color grading. I don't know how they got those colors out of like GoPro Hero 2 or Hero 3 or whatever.
Probably didn't color it at all. Just left it super saturated.
It's just saturated a lot. Yeah. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Basketball's definitely got a culture. I loved watching Michael Jordan growing up and Allen Iverson, and just people that kind of had this like swag to them. And I remember when I was playing basketball in high school and stuff, like I'd come in with like an arm sleeve and my coach was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to have some like individuality. I try to add to it, but
mix it up a bit.
Yeah, I know. But it's fun. They play music at the spot that I go to. So it's like,
I think it's super important. I get my best ideas too when I'm moving in some kind of way. If I'm just sitting behind a computer, it's like there's no new input to work with. So how are you expecting your brain to come up with a new idea? You lived an interesting life. I want to ask like the right question because no one lives like you do. Not many people have lived the way you have. I think a lot about like when I was younger, I wanted to be a quote unquote movie director. I think that's the answer people give because they don't really know the other answer. But I think what you have done in the space that you have been, when you think about like, I came from the era of wanting to replicate people like you, to be honest. Like Coulter and you were big inspirations for me. But at a certain point, when I started to thrive in my own was when I realized that I don't, not in a bad way, but I don't want to be you. You know, like you were you, and I want to be me. I want to be Andrew James, and I don't want to be Sam Coulter. Sam Coulter was Sam Coulter. If I try to be him, it's like, I'm just going to do it worse. And I think people are like that with movie directors as well. How did you come into a sense of individuality as an artist? Because I think in the beginning, most people are not stealing from others, but taking heavy inspiration from others at some point. I know I did, and I think a lot of people did. How was it for you coming into a sense of individuality in your career? Has it been a process over a long time, or has it been something you felt for a minute now?
I mean, yeah, it's like anything else. It's like every time you do something, you like learn a little bit more about either like the program or yourself or what like trying to achieve what it is you're trying to make it look like. But I mean, for me, I feel like I had a bunch of mixed influences and like weirdly too, like I was never like into like YouTube or anything. So like my inspiration was like Disney movies or like Spielberg or like science fiction films. Or like reading the Harry Potter novels. It's like, so I just like knew what felt good to me. Right. So anytime I would make something, and it's like, I guess the earliest forms of me making stuff was like in high school and college, like from my video classes. But yeah, I felt like I always had this, my teachers said too, it's like I kind of had like a style. And I think it was like part of it was I never really did anything with dialogue per se. So it's like I just wanted to be able to like get the tone and the feeling of what I was feeling across. And for me, that was like either music or the like type of sound design or like making things like nice and slow and like clean. So
because you were one of the people who I remember seeing like a lot of the creators in the space, your work felt a little bit elevated. And I'm not just saying that because you're on my podcast. Like, I really mean that. Like, your work felt slightly, there was a little bit more thought behind, like when people were just doing zoom transitions and luma fades, your shots had more. Even India, like the intro to India, it's like I felt something. And it wasn't just sexy people doing sexy things.
Yeah.
You know, it was like there's a real, I don't know the word, ambiance to it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, too, because it's like that was my first time in India, and it's like I just wanted to kind of like while I was there, I felt a specific way, and it's like I wanted to do my best of being like, this is what it felt like while I was there. This is what the people felt like when I was there. This is like what the whole experience felt like. So it's like, you know, and it's weird too because we're in a time where it's just like it used to be you choose a song and then like no one else would touch that song, and now it's like there's a popular song and then everyone uses that song. And it's like that's why I think, you know, everyone's like, you got to do more TikToks, you got to do more reels, like your engagement will be good. And it's just like I don't like, I'm aware of that, but it's like for me now I'm just like my new passion is like I'm making music, and it's just like I just want to make music that like touches on how I'm feeling or whatever, and then I'll make like a piece to that music and just like let that live for however long it needs to live. But it's like the engagement's not what I'm like searching for, but it's just like more so if it's like, you know, and you do this too. It's like if you're somewhere, it's like this is the vibe of what it feels like to be there, and whether you're doing it with like a voiceover to try to describe it, or if you're trying to do it with like text or like dialogue, or if it's just like the music and like the sound of the ambiance of what just like what does it feel like. And I think what people need to tune into is just like stop. It's okay to get inspiration from people, but it's just like get off your phones and stuff and like allow it, like tune into yourself as much as you possibly can so you can be fully present wherever you're at, and then just channel all of that into whatever it is that you're making. Because it's like, hey, I'm in Saudi, this feels amazing, I'm here with new people that I've never been with before, and it's like this feels like a very new, unique thing. Now let me like remember what this feels like, harness it, and just like put it into what I'm making. And then all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh, it feels different. It's like, because everyone's experiencing it in a different way, in a new way. So it's just like, for me, I was just trying to make it like as authentic as I possibly could of like what it felt like to be there. And I really didn't have any like references at the time of like where I was pulling stuff from. So it probably felt like completely different. But for me, it was just like, how do I do my like bootleg version of like Steven Spielberg or like a Disney movie of like what it feels like to be there, and like try to make it as polished as I can. And the only way I knew how to do it was like, I wasn't really running around with gimbals and like indie and stuff. It was just all handheld. So I'm like shooting 120 just to like, it's crazy to go back and look.
I remember watching
Yeah.
tutorials, like the handheld, it was like 120, 1DX, and
Just so I could
it's crazy.
slow it down.
I learned how to
Yeah.
hyperlapse from you. Like you taught a lot of info. I really appreciate a lot of the information that you shared early on, because now information is so gatekept, and I understand it because people are teaching courses and it's more in depth, and it's about giving people a system to learn a skill. So I understand master classes and it makes sense to me, but I still have a great appreciation for anybody like yourself who made tutorials on YouTube back in the day, exposing industry difficult secrets. Like these were things that weren't known at the time, like the Lightroom tutorials, how to pump color, filters. These were new ideas that were being shared freely. I do miss that sometimes on the internet. There's a sense of everyone is trying to make so much money off of their things that, like, YouTube used to be a lot more pure, and I think there's so many people who know they can make money off of it now, and it does get a little bit conflated. But on the idea of inspiration, what you touched on, which is really important and something I need to take into my consideration, is so many people are playing Simon Says, especially on Instagram Reels and TikTok. It's like, this video did well, let me recreate it. Whereas I think it's better, what you're saying is pull from everything. Pull from the conversations you're having, pull from the movies you're seeing, the music you're listening to, the way the sun looks. Don't just pull from exactly the niche that you're in. Bring new ideas.
Or let it inspire you, but don't, like you said, don't try to aim to recreate it.
Right.
It's like,
take an element maybe, or see what they did right.
You'll never be the person you're trying to like emulate, and that's not a bad thing.
It's a good
because
thing.
They already exist. That seed is taken,
Yep.
And now you get to be a different version of whatever it is that inspired you about that. But
but you can test this too. It's like it's so much. I saw Jeff Bezos ironically talking about it's the idea of not chasing waves, waiting for the wave. The surfer doesn't chase a wave; they position themselves and they wait for the wave. And so that's very much what I think people in this industry need to do, who are looking at people like you, who not as much anymore, to be honest with you, but like who were looking at Cold or people like that. Don't try to be those people. Whatever your idol is, take inspiration, be inspired from them. But then understand that the gift is you get to be yourself, and the world doesn't need to.
Because no one has lived the life that you lived. And it's like you're watching something, it makes you feel a certain way and inspires you, and it gets you hopefully off of your butt to go and do whatever it is that like lit that fire. And now just like, you can try to like take little things from it. But I just think too many people were just like, this, like, I gotta zoom, I gotta color this way, I gotta do like this exact shot.
Well,
I
even
gotta go
lifestyle,
to this exact
I gotta wear
place.
Vans, I've gotta get shredded, they learn how to backflip. You're just trying to emulate, and I get it, but it's better not to be that way. And the world's changing quick, so I think it'll be interesting to see who rises in these industries now with AI and everything.
And like, don't feel it feels like it's like an uphill battle. I get it, and I feel like it's like oversaturated and it's like a long journey. But I think what's really cool now is like you see the rise of a bunch of new creators, and I think there is a brand new wave of. There always is. There's always like, and there's plenty of space for people to be successful, and there's plenty of space for new voices. So it's just like, if you're inspired, just do.
Last question is just about like the Film Jungle video you guys made.
Yeah.
Like, I consider that one of the best travel videos ever made. But if I had to guess when you guys were making it, I don't know. You tell me. But if I had to guess, I'm sure you thought it was really good and you were really stoked on it. And you're like, people are gonna like this, but you probably weren't thinking like. You probably weren't overthinking it, right? Like,
no. And it was funny because it's like we had done trips together, obviously, and then we went to Hawaii, and it wasn't for a specific reason. It was just to like go and have fun. And then we're like, we want to make a video from it. and we're like, where do we put it? And like, well, why don't we just make a new channel that we can put it together? And then he came and stayed with me at my apartment for maybe a week, probably maybe a few days less than that. But I remember it was like we had pulled selects, and then I started to like piece stuff together, and we'd find a couple shots that we thought like worked well together. We're like, oh, this drone shot can lead into this shot, and then he would work on like the transition.
Yeah, it was a real collaboration.
Yeah, and he would like start masking, and while he's masking, I'm like piecing out the rest of the edit, and then we'd like pause and look and be like, oh yeah, that's Stingray, that's dope. Okay, what about this? Like we put this in the stars, and like
the stars.
Yeah, so there was really nothing.
You're not overthinking it, because I think I've approached
we just wanted to make something fun.
I've approached projects before where I'm like, this needs to be my best video. Yeah. I need this to impress people. That's the worst place to start a video. It's what you're saying. Like, you're stoked on it. Like, this is fun for you. You're enjoying it. Like, oh, well, you're probably like, oh, check out what sound effect sounds good here. These stars look cool here. And you're like, well, but no one's approaching it from the standpoint of this needs to inspire people. This needs to create, you're just trying to create a cool video.
Yeah. And it was also like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that just like it sound jaded or anything, but I feel like there was a real sense of community, like in like the 2016 to 2019. It was like we wanted to all work together, and we all and I feel like now there's like almost this weird sense of like competition, and I don't understand why, and it like bums me out a little bit, because I feel like it's become like the Hunger Games a little bit. It's like, well, we're District 3, we don't hang out with District 7 or like District, like, it's just...
Well, it got a little bit more organized, and I think when people get organized, and I just think there's more money in it now, to where the point, I really think like mid-tier production companies, so not $1 million commercials, not $10,000 projects, somewhere in between, that's the future, lean crews, and I think people are just realizing there's a lot of money in this space.
But there's so much to go around again. There's so many new brands, there's so many new creative people. It's like... And also, it's just funny too, because it's like I never used to check my DMs like in Instagram, and I know so many people that like I bump into now, or that I'll look at and like they like probably tried to DM me and like unsent it because I didn't answer, and they like hold some sort of like saltiness, and like I like if I notice that I'm also from like the East Coast, so I just like go up to them and be like, big fan of your stuff. I never read your message. Like, I just...
Not personal.
I don't want their... Like,
Well, you can't answer every message either. If you ever message... I've messaged so many people that I know now, but I messaged them.
Or even the old Instagram, it's like they'd never had, like, pending requests, like general, primary, hidden. Like, it was just chronological, and I would just get, like, random, like, Usher fans or something.
Yeah,
so
you don't know who it is.
I just never checked my DMs, but I just hope that there's no more sense of like, if we can eliminate this like competition and the, like comparing yourself to other people, it's so toxic. So I just hope we can just like, if someone inspires you, just like want to be like friends with them. I feel like we're in a hate culture now a little bit, where it's just like you want to find a reason to hate on someone or like knock someone's legs out from under them. And it's just like, we can all like support each other and build each other up, because there's plenty of success to go around. And it's like, I still love, like I went to...
but you know what, to push back on that a little bit, like I think there is a lot to go around, but I honestly think there are people who are in this space who were role models for a lot of people. And I think a lot of younger kids got burned by them coming up.
Yeah.
And
if that's the case, that's
weren't treated with the respect that they deserved. And I think... it's the same way that I am. I have experienced it in different ways, with different things. I can't use specifics, obviously, but like I have been in places where I was a fan of a situation. I wanted to be there, but I was still working. Yeah. And so it's like that needed to be understood from the beginning. Yes, I'm a fan. And now I have a bit of a following myself. I'm not big, but I was looking for an editor and I was looking for help. And I think everyone just needs to be aware that people are working now, and it's not as much of like fans basis.
Yeah. I mean, the word collab is just like morphed into 9 million. That's the like the most universal word like ever. But yeah, I just think it's like respect too. You know, it's like I still do stuff for free, but just make sure if you're doing it because you love it and you feel like you're being respected and that you're being treated correctly. But it's still like, you know,
but protect yourself as well. Yeah. There's a lot of nuance there.
Yeah, just don't use people, and just know what I think everyone has a good gauge of like what feels good to you.
In your gut. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If it makes your gut feel weird, it's like this is probably not cool. But I mean, that's what I actually liked about the Vine days and stuff, was like everyone was just like helping each other shoot stuff or shoot like random comedy skits or what have you. And it's like, I could have had like this head about me where it's like, hey, I shot Usher's stuff and got paid good money yesterday. Like, why would I help you shoot a 6-second video? But for me, it was just like, it was a cathartic release and I wasn't thinking about it. And all of a sudden it like led to cool stuff or, you know.
Well, I think it's more complicated because people know that people are making money. I remember it's okay. I think we've covered a lot of good stuff today, honestly.
Yeah.
So this was a great conversation. I feel like we got through some good stuff. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Could always chat again.
Yeah, I'll be back in LA. We can run it back again
Sweet.
and get into some real stuff. But yeah, that's basically it. Anything you want to leave the people with? I don't know.
Yeah, just keep creating. Create the stuff that you love. And less time on your phone. I know it's weird because you're probably watching this on a phone.
But after this, turn it off.
Yeah. Just get some sunlight and
Everything's gonna be okay.
Go talk to the people that you love. Life's good.
There you go. All right. Thanks so much, Jordan.
No
Appreciate
worries.
it.